Hello and welcome to the November edition of The Dot Report. The cybersecurity space always gets hot toward the end of the year, and 2025 is proving no different. This month, we'll cover a record-breaking DDoS attack mitigated by Microsoft that reached 15.7 terabytes per second. The guilty pleas of 5 U.S. citizens as another chapter unfolds in the ongoing story of North Korean cyber-espionage, the SEC's dismissal of the long-running SolarWinds case, and the TamperedChef Malware campaign exploiting fake software installers. Before we get into our stories this month, though, make sure to check out even more news covered in our podcast version of The Dot Report on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. Now, there's only a few weeks left in 2025, so let's jump right in. For starters, in November, Microsoft's Azure platform survived what could be the largest ever cloud-based DDoS attack. A flood that reached a brutal clip of over 15 terabytes per second. And this attack didn't come from one or two malicious servers. It was launched by a massive botnet network composed of over 500,000 compromised IoT devices, mostly home routers, cameras, and DVRs. But the flood was also extremely well coordinated. Microsoft says the attack used randomized source ports, but had very little IP spoofing, making it easier to trace while still being devastating in scope and scale. Azure's DDoS protection system responded automatically, filtering out the malicious traffic in real time and keeping the targeted endpoint, which was in Australia, online without disruption. This showcases how cloud-native defenses are evolving faster than the botnets themselves. While on the other hand, this incident also highlights how IoT devices are getting more powerful every day, week, and year, and many of them are still insecure or unmanaged. Microsoft has even warned that as fiber speeds increase and more devices come online, the baseline for the future of DDoS attacks will only rise. This means traditional network hygiene isn't enough. Monitoring, automated protection, and threat intelligence need to be baked in to your overarching infrastructure. Later this month, in the latest chapter of the ongoing North Korean cyber-espionage scheme featuring fraudulent remote IT workers, 5 U.S. citizens pleaded guilty for their roles. The 5 pled guilty to helping North Korean nation-state hackers posing as remote IT workers infiltrate 136 companies. This was a coordinated effort to provide North Korean operatives with access, resources, and infrastructure to carry out business email compromise and other types of cyber attacks. According to the court filings, these individuals knowingly rented or sold their skills, digital assets, and shell corporations to facilitate the North Korean operatives. The network they supported was used to orchestrate wire fraud, spoof business communications, and enable the movement of illicit funds. Their cooperation significantly expanded the reach and scale of these BEC campaigns attributed to the cyber-espionage scheme. And while there's still sure to be more turns in this case, the guilty pleas mark a big win for the overarching cybersecurity community. In a surprising turn on a long-standing case, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has officially dismissed its civil fraud lawsuit against SolarWinds and its Chief Information Security Officer, Timothy Brown. This legal battle stemmed from the 2020 Sunburst breach where Russian-linked hackers infiltrated SolarWinds systems, and the SEC alleged that both the company and its CISO misled investors about their cybersecurity practices. Then, in July of 2024, a judge threw out most of the SEC's claims, as at that point in time, the court argued that many of the accusations were based on hindsight rather than any provable disclosures. Now, in November of 2025, the parties filed a joint motion to dismiss with prejudice, meaning the SEC cannot refile these specific allegations. This resolution has implications beyond just SolarWinds because over the past few years, this case specifically had raised serious questions across the industry about the professional liability of CISOs and the regulatory expectations being placed on cybersecurity leadership after a breach. By dropping the case, the SEC is effectively recalibrating how aggressively it enforces cybersecurity-related financial disclosures. For security professionals and public companies alike, this sets a new tone. It suggests that regulators may be more cautious about pushing cyber risk enforcement when the evidence is disputed or when claims rely heavily on what happened post-breach. At the same time, it raises the bar for how firms communicate cyber risk and underscores how transparency must be balanced with realism. Advances in malware continue this year as security researchers revealed a global malvertising campaign distributing a sophisticated malware called TamperedChef through bogus software installers. Rather than rely on obvious exploit kits, attackers are masquerading as legitimate software providers offering PDF editors, utilities, or other common tools. This tricks unsuspecting users into downloading malicious payloads. The installers are signed with legitimate-looking digital certificates issued to shell companies. That code signing gives the app a veneer of trust, which makes it easier for them to evade security checks and user suspicion. Once installed, the malware drops an XML file that creates a scheduled Windows task, which in turn launches an obfuscated JavaScript backdoor. From there, TamperedChef collects machine identifiers, session details, and other metadata, exfiltrating that data in an encrypted language, specifically base64 encoded JSON over HTTPS. In some cases, it's also used as an info stealer, harvesting browser credentials and cookies to give attackers deeper access or even set up persistence. The campaign's infrastructure adds additional layers of stealth as the operators use SEO poisoning, poisoned search ads, and software names that target real everyday search queries like PDF editor. This is an industrialized approach with a business-like backend, with new certificates being issued as old ones are revoked. And the victims span multiple industries like healthcare, manufacturing, and construction being among the most impacted. The campaign targets these sectors specifically because they tend to frequently search for product manuals, utilities, or free tools. And those are the very searches this campaign is weaponizing. That's it for this month. So as always, thanks for watching. And remember, if you want more news from the Dot Report, you can hear these stories plus an additional 4 covered in our podcast report on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen. Browse safe out there. I'm Andrew Mancini with Dot Security, and this has been the Dot Report.